Grizzlies are trading Desmond Bane to Orlando. Sources tell ESPN Shams Charania, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony. 4 unprotected first-round picks, including this year's number 16 overall pick. In the NBA, it is not Kevin Durant.
Happy Father's Day, ladies and gentlemen. On Father's Day 2025, we got news that nobody expected. As a matter of fact, I myself had no idea that NBA players could be traded during the NBA Finals. So the NBA world was stunned today when Shams Charania dropped a bomb that nobody saw coming. The Magic just traded 4 unprotected first-round picks plus a pick swap to acquire Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's not all they gave up for Desmond Bane. And this trade is massive. It gives you an idea of where the Memphis Grizzlies are headed towards in the future, how they view their team in the present, and the same with the Orlando Magic. So there's a lot of questions we need to answer here. 1, was it a good trade? 2, did the Orlando Magic just give up way too much? And 3, what does this mean for both teams moving forward? So before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. And now that we get all of that out of the way, cue the intro. You remember the 4-man I ran in my Luka Doncic video on Prize Picks? Well, that risk-free $25 hit. Now, if you didn't take that opportunity, you could still sign up for Prize Picks using my promo code microphone to get a free $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. And if you go into the description down below, there will be a link to join my Discord server where we've been hitting on baseball, WNBA, and NBA on a daily basis. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Let's break down this trade. Orlando sent out Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and 5 draft picks. More specifically, the 2025 16th overall pick, Phoenix's 2026 first-round pick, unprotected firsts in 2028 and 2030, plus a lightly protected 2029 pick swap. In return, the Magic get Desmond Bane, who currently is under a 5-year, $197 million contract through 2029. And from a pure basketball perspective, this is a great trade for the Orlando Magic. The Magic ranked dead last in 3-point shooting last year at 31.8%, nearly 3 full percentage points worse than the second worst team. Bane is a career 41% 3-point shooter who just shot 39.2% from deep while averaging 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5.3 assists this past season. And before we discuss whether or not this trade haul is worth it for Bane, we really need to do a dive into how perfect of a fit he is in Orlando. Bane plays elite defense, and he can single-handedly take over a game if Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner have an off night. Just take a look at some of these clips I gathered that prove just how valuable Desmond Bane is on the offensive side of the ball. In Memphis's play-in game against the Golden State Warriors this year, Bane was arguably the best player on the floor for his team, despite the losing effort, and it's because of dominant plays like these. Bane is going to start this play off the ball, creating space in the corner as he does so well, with John Morant running a pick and roll with Jaren Jackson Jr. at the top of the key. Jackson's going to create the switch and attempt to back down the much smaller Moses Moody off the ball. But instead, Morant is going to dump the ball down to Zach Edey, who is also posting up. This is horrific spacing by the Grizzlies big men, but as soon as Edey touches the ball, Bane knows that Jackson has to find space, so he rotates over to the wing, leaving Jackson to move back to the corner. Bane also knows that Jimmy Butler loves to apply off-ball pressure on big men in the post, which is exactly what happens, forcing Brandon Podziemski to rotate over to Ja, leaving him wide open on the wing for Edey to find. Unfortunately, Edey fakes one too many passes, and instead of hitting Bane for a wide open 3, he gets Bane the ball right as Podziemski is rotating back over to him. Still, Bane knows exactly what he's doing, and his brain works fast. Bane catches the ball and immediately fakes right, using Podziemski's momentum against him, which forces Podziemski to give Bane 1 extra inch of space, which is all he needed to hit the 3 that he should have had all along. But Bane isn't just a shooter though. He can drive and finish just as well as he can shoot, and this next play is proof of that. After Memphis grabs a board off of Golden State's miss, Memphis decides to pick up some space and swing the ball to Santi Aldama, who's ahead of everybody, giving the rest of the squad some time to pick up some steam and attack the hole with with momentum. Aldama eventually finds Bane, who catches the ball at the top of the key, and just like I said, he was going to attack the rim with force. Bane catches the ball, and before Podziemski even gets a chance to put a body on him, he uses his quickness and the speed he was gathering on the fast break to blow right by him, leaving Kevon Looney as the only man between Bane and the rim. Knowing that Looney is going to be able to stop any layup Bane could possibly attempt, Bane halts his momentum at the elbow, forcing Looney to step up, and using Looney's body against him by faking the shot before slipping right under Looney's right arm to score a nasty and one scoop layup with his offhand. It wasn't unorthodox, but Bane continues to show how he's not only smarter than the average basketball player, but that he's also more talented than you think. The last play I want to show you just shows his unbelievable hustle, what made him Memphis's glue guy for so long. Bane starts this play on the left wing, and before Ja even gets settled in the half court, he's going to wrap around, faking a screen before continuing to run to the corner behind a Zach Edey off-ball screen. Edey's screen didn't do much though, so when Ja lobs Bane the ball, he's caught in a terrible position where he has to go up and get the ball while also having two Warrior defenders on his hip when he comes down. So instead of letting that happen, which would surely result in a turnover, Bane catches the ball with one hand in midair and redirects it right to Zach Edey before he even lands. That's not all though. As soon as Bane's feet hit the ground, he immediately starts sprinting right back to the ball for an impromptu dribble handoff, where Bane simply out-hustles both Podziemski and Looney, finding a lane between them for an easy floater while having them chase him around the court. So from a pure basketball fit, this is incredible, but there might be a problem.
The Magic have needed more offense for a year. It really collapsed offensively down the stretch, and we're not a threat in the playoffs because of it. So for a guy in Desmond Bane, who over the last 3-4 years has averaged about 20 points and shot over 40%, and they also trade Kentavious Caldwell-Pope away. You have to look at this trade not only as acquiring Desmond Bane, but they're offloading the contract of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but he did not have a good year, okay, guys?
So on one hand, it makes sense why the Magic would try to make this trade, but the elephant in the room is this.
Part of what they're paying with those picks is for Bane, but also to offload what is viewed as a bad contract. It is a rich, thing to trade. The 16th pick in this draft isn't viewed as super expensive, but unprotected in 26, 28, and 30. We have no idea what those teams are going to be. That's a big price, but they're paying for get rid of Caldwell-Pope and to acquire Bane. That's what you have to understand.
This is where it gets interesting. The Memphis Grizzlies received more draft capital for Desmond Bane than Dallas got for Luka Doncic. Think about that for a second. The Mavs got one future first rounder for a guy who finished top 3 in MVP voting, while the Grizzlies just hauled in 5 picks for a player who's never made an all-star team. Now, granted, the Dallas Mavericks also got Anthony Davis, but also Luka Doncic was arguably a top 5 player in the NBA, and in my opinion, the Mavericks should have gotten way more than just one future first-round pick. So why would Memphis make this trade? Well, it's simple. Memphis pretty much looked at their roster after getting swept by Oklahoma City and said, we're not even close. We need to blow this up. And their GM Zach Kleiman was brutally honest after their playoff exit by saying, we're not even close. There's a lot of work to be done. That's not exactly the kind of statement that suggests that they're going to be running it back with the same core. The financial picture tells the full story. Bane was set to make $36.7 million next season, escalating to nearly $45 million by 2028 to 2029. Memphis was already facing luxury tax implications, especially with Jaren Jackson Jr., who's about to get a massive extension, and honestly, the Grizzlies are very lucky that Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't make an all-NBA team, because that extension could have been way worse than what it currently is about to be. You could also mention the fact that Desmond Bane wasn't that great in the playoffs, because he averaged 15 points on 32% shooting from the field and 22% from 3, but at the exact same time, I'm not necessarily sure if that was 100% Desmond Bane's fault, because the Grizzlies fired their head coach Taylor Jenkins right before the playoffs. There's also a rumor that there was reported tension with the Memphis Grizzlies. Santi Aldama and Desmond Bane were caught shoving each other on the bench. So let's talk about Orlando and what this does for the Orlando Magic. This trade transforms them into a legitimate contender in the Eastern Conference. Their core of Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, and now Desmond Bane has the perfect balance of youth, talent, and complementary skills. The fit is absolutely perfect. Bane gives them elite shooting that they desperately needed while maintaining their defensive identity. He's 6'5" with solid defensive instincts, posting a 113.4 defensive rating and averaging 1.2 steals per game. The Magic can now roll out a lineup that spaces the floor without sacrificing sacrificing their second-ranked defense. But here's the kicker. Bane isn't just a shooter. He averaged 5.3 assists this past season, giving them another playmaker to take pressure off of Banchero and Wagner. NBA analysts are already salivating over the screening actions that they can run, with Banchero and Wagner setting picks for Bane coming off of pin downs. That's going to be almost impossible to defend. But now we get to the elephant in the room. Did the Orlando Magic give up way too much to get Desmond Bane? 4 unprotected picks plus a pick swap for a player who's never made an all-star team is unprecedented. Kevin O'Connor said it himself. I love the Bane acquisition for the Magic. It's a lot to give up, but they had a surplus of picks and Bane fits perfectly with Franz and Paolo. Can't wait to see what the Grizzlies do with all this draft capital. Is there another big move coming? And that's the next question we need to ask. Where do the Memphis Grizzlies stand right now? Are they rebuilding around Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., or is this the first domino in a complete teardown? The draft capital they acquired suggests that they're planning something big. There's been rumors around Ja Morant for a few months now. ESPN's Tim McMahon reported that there's whispering and rumbling about his availability. Brian Windhorst discusses what this means for Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.
What does this mean for the Grizzlies? This is now what is being asked in the league. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has proven to be a piece of a championship contender twice in his career. Last season did not look like that, and he has gotten older and has a big contract. So this is a trade where the Grizzlies are pivoting a little bit. And, it's not an insane thing because, if you look at the Western Conference and you look at how tough it is to compete, and you look at what Memphis thinks about their hand, it may be the time to do a little bit of a pivot. Everyone's kind of got the gas put down, including the Jazz. The Jazz are intending to try to turn it up. The next question is, what about Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.? And I don't know the answer to this. We're just started trying to figure out with this trade. The whole league is now going to investigate this. If I was at the Grizzlies press conference, this is the number one question I would be asking. I'd be asking, do you intend to extend Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., both of whom are extension eligible this summer? That's the big story emanating out of this trade.
You have to bear in mind, Ja Morant's missed 126 games over the past 3 seasons. He had a hip injury that ended their playoff run. Some executives are still questioning whether he's still a top 10 player when healthy, and his statistics have declined significantly over this past year. But Zach Kleiman has been adamant about keeping Ja Morant, saying we're not trading Ja, and telling people to continue to underestimate Ja, this team, in this city. You could view this trade as the very first domino in a complete teardown, or you could view this move as the Memphis Grizzlies strengthening their commitment to Ja by saying that Ja Morant is the undisputed #1 option. The Memphis Grizzlies now have the salary cap flexibility to extend Jaren Jackson Jr. without any luxury tax penalties. Those 4 first-round picks could be packaged for another star to pair with Ja Morant. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had a down year, but he also brings championship experience, and Cole Anthony is a solid backup point guard. But what's scary about this is what this means for the rest of the NBA. If Desmond Bane is worth 4 first-round picks, what's Giannis Antetokounmpo's worth? What's Kevin Durant's worth? At the end of the day, this isn't one of those trades that we can immediately grade like the Luka Doncic trade. This trade is either going to be viewed as the trade that brings the Orlando Magic into contention, or one of those terrible decisions where the Magic gave up too much for a player that didn't make them NBA Finals contenders. If the Orlando Magic make it to the NBA Finals 2 years from now, no one is going to care about the amount of draft capital that they gave up. The price was steep, but those draft picks were essentially the cost of doing business to get off of KCP's contract, while also adding one of the most complete 2 guards in the NBA. For Memphis, this is just strictly about asset management. They turned a player who is going to be expensive and might not have wanted to be part of a rebuild into a treasure trove of future assets. Those picks could be flipped for a superstar or used to be built around Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant in the long term. In my opinion, I give the Orlando Magic a B for addressing their biggest weakness and going all in on their championship window. Memphis gets an A for maximizing value and maintaining future flexibility. This trade will be remembered either as the move that unlocked Orlando's potential or the moment that they mortgaged their future for marginal improvement. This is the very first trade of the NBA offseason, even though the NBA Finals is still going down. I personally thought that first trade was going to be Kevin Durant getting traded to the Spurs. I have a completely separate video on that. I'm going to leave it in the end screen. I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.